Ožbej. Even his name sounds Turkish, but he said no. It's the origin is Irish. So Ožbej Peterle is of course the speaker for today. Tal will introduce him professionally, but I just wanted to thank him for accepting to be our speaker for the month of February. And as well, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the WSET delegate of Slovenia, the Sukomadi Konde. You know, I've never met him before, but he's new. He's quite new as WSET delegate in Slovenia. So anyway, once again, thank you very much. And now we'll proceed with the presentation, starting with Tal, who is going to introduce you first so the people know, or the colleagues know who you are and what you stand for. Tal.
Thank you, Mohammed. I would like to ask everybody to mute themselves, because sometimes we forget that we are on speaker. So if you can mute yourself, so there's no background from the back. And before I introduce Ožbej, I just want to remind each and every one of them that to follow us on all our channels. We have a beautiful YouTube channels that everything that was recording here is going into the YouTube channel, so you can go anytime and catch up and learn about all the wine countries that we did for the last year, and you'll find an amazing wine world that discovered. So it's of course OMGD Global on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media like Facebook, like Instagram, and of course LinkedIn. Maybe one day we'll do also on TikTok, who knows. I think it's always for the young people, TikTok, but the word is catching. So we're going to do that. So follow us on social media. And now it's given me a great pleasure to introduce our speaker of today, Ožbej Peterle. He's a young guy. He was born in 1985 in Ljubljana, Slovenia. He has a degree in economics from the University of Ljubljana and an MA in politics and security and intelligence from the University College in London. So many hats. In 2019, he passed the WSET diploma, which is, I can say from experience, is a very hard task to do. It's a big exam. And in 2020 become the Weinakademiker of Slovenian. He is currently working on a project, manager of Slovenian Wine Association, and is also organizing sommelier competitions, and is a lecturer of wine, and he writes articles in various magazines. So it gives me a great pleasure to welcome Ožbej to our webinar today. So Ožbej, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, yeah, I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. This is not an everyday task to get, to be involved in this association with such history, and all of you with all the knowledge and participation which you have. And of course, thank you to Mohammed as well. So yeah, since Tal said so many good things about me, I have nothing to add. And probably is the best just to slowly continue with the presentation. So today we're going to talk about, well, first of all, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We are here to expand our wine knowledge and to share our love to wine and to the whole culture which wine presents. So yes, I will probably slowly, we can just start and then we can continue.
Hello, Eve.
Hi, Mohammed. How are you? Sorry to be late.
Good. No problem.
Hi, Tal. Nice to see you. And Dominique, how are you?
Super. So can you all see the presentation now?
Yeah.
All right. So we have roughly around 45 to 60 minutes about Slovenian wine. So yes, I mean, wine, it's not just about, it's not just a liquid, it's the most complex drink in the world. It has the geographical, historical, ritual, economic, religious, social, healthy part to it. So I think it's one of the best things which can happen to you in your life. So I think it's definitely worth talking about it, exploring it. And it's a secret which you cannot fully comprehend, because it's, each vintage is different, each wine producer is different, each grape variety is different. So there's so many stories I would recommend to anyone, but you already know this, so I don't have to spend so many words on that. So today we're going to talk about Slovenia. So I asked before if you all tried Slovenian wine, and not all of you did. So which means that we have to do better as a wine country in order to be present, everywhere, at least because I think we have lots to offer. Slovenia is a small country. It has only 20,000 square kilometers and 2 million inhabitants. So, but as we usually say, even though we are small in numbers, we are big as a country, because there's many things to see here. So we got independence in 1991. So we are independent for the last 30 years. And as you can see here, Slovenia is bordering 4 countries. So in the north, we have Austria, in the west, Italy, in the south, Croatia, and in east, Hungary. As you know, all other countries are also producing wine. So Slovenia, it's not an exception in this sense. But also why this map? The first thing, of course, when we talk about wine, is the climate where the wine is produced. And in Slovenia, as you can see here in the northern part of Slovenia, this is the last part of the Alps. So we have peaks going almost up to 3,000 meters. So Triglav is the highest with 2,865 in the northwestern part of Slovenia. So this is obviously one remarkable thing in terms of the influence of the climate. Then we have the Adriatic Sea in the southwestern part. And then, Hungary is pretty flat. So we have the Pannonian flatland in the northeastern part, and then Croatia with the Dinarsko mountain range. So these are 4 main things which kind of define Slovenia in terms of the climate. So the most important thing, one of the things is also that, as you will see later, so we have 3 wine regions, and they are divided by the west and the eastern side. So the western has more like Mediterranean climate because it's close to the sea, and the eastern, it has a continental climate, which obviously have, so they have different grape varieties, not all of them, but many are different styles of wine, but we'll get into that a bit more later on. So, obviously a couple of words about the history of Slovenian wine history. In Slovenia, wine was produced already before the Roman times. So even the Celts, they already produced wine because there were some archaeological findings there in terms of the wine production. So the estimation is that 400 years before Christ, this was already present in Slovenia. But as you know, the Romans, wherever they were present, they also planted the wine grapes there. So we have also lots of these findings from the Roman times in the western part, and as well as in the eastern part. So it was more or less all over the place, as in the whole Europe mostly. So from the 1,000 to 1,500. So the majority of the wine produced was within the church and monasteries territory. So because Slovenia already in the 12th and 13th century, the orders of monks came to Slovenia, and they started to establish different monasteries, and of course they were also planting grapes in different parts of Slovenia. What you can see on the right side of this slide is a picture of the oldest vine in the world, the plant. So this was planted roughly, I mean, it's not completely known, but yeah, between 1,500 and 1,600, which means that it's this vine is older than, they say it's roughly 450 years old, which makes it the oldest vine in the world. It's also in the Guinness Book of Records. And it's an interesting story about this vine because it survived, you know, everything. You know, it survived the Turks invading. It survived the Napoleon. This house was actually, it caught fire for 5 times, but still this vine was able to survive everything. And it's even now still producing grapes, I mean the fruit, which means that roughly between 40 and 50 liters of wine per year is produced from this wine, which is based in Maribor. So if I may show you, so see, Maribor is in the northeastern part of Slovenia, and this is the second biggest city with 120,000, 150,000 inhabitants. So this is actually at the river Drava, as you can see, which goes through Maribor.
What kind of grape does it produce?
The grape variety, it's called Žametna Črnina or Žametovka. And it's indigenous grape variety in Slovenia. Actually, still the second most planted red grape variety, but it's usually it's not used in. It's more or less impossible to find a single grape variety wine from this grape variety because it's low in alcohol. It has high acidity. It's usually used in blends, but it's lately, finally, they actually also started to produce sparkling wine with the classic champagne method from this grape variety, and there are some really good results. But overall, this is as a wine, as a single grape variety, it's a bit let's say boring in terms of the quality of wine. So that's why usually it's used in blends. But why it's so planted? Because yeah, it's easy to maintain. You have like high yields. As you know, back in the days, this was the game of the day to have 10, 12 tons per hectare in order to produce as much as possible. But obviously these things are different now. Yes, so Žametna Črnina is the grape, or as we call it, Žametovka, as we call it in Slovenia. So yeah, what happened in 1822, as you know, Slovenia was part of the Austrian Empire and later on of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So this was the, we were like for 600 years there. So, but Archduke Johann in 1822 introduced the...
Vohun 90.
Vohun 90. Slišimo vas, samo to se mislimo mogoče še...
Ja, pardon, se pravičujem.
So he actually introduced all these international grape varieties to Slovenia, like Chardonnay, Sauvignon, Pinot Gris, and which definitely influenced the wine regions in terms of the quality and everything. As you know, Phylloxera arrived in 1880 and more or less destroyed all the vineyards until the First World War, which means that the level of hectares, the level of vineyards never reached the same size as it did before. Because let's say in 1880, we had like roughly between 45 to 50,000 hectares, and now we have like 20. So we have, half of it as it used to be. Of course, another big thing, it's like 45 to 91, we had socialism, which means that there was less private initiative, wine producers were not allowed to sell their wine as a private brand. So all the, let's say, big co-ops were established. Many of those even before socialism, obviously, but the majority of wine is produced within the co-ops. And yeah, maybe quantity more than quality was the game of the day back in the days. But even though you have lots of still good examples from this era, so even though it was maybe not the best time for wine producing time in Slovenia, you can still find some amazing wines from that era as well. All right, 1991, Slovenia got independence, and which means that this was kind of a rebirth of winemaking. All producers who more or less just gave grapes to the co-ops now, like they started to produce wine on their own. and results are definitely, especially in the last 10-15 years, are pretty amazing. All right, any question? Okay, so I can move on. So Slovenia, as I said, now we have 15,000 hectares. Actually, from year to year, we are losing the vineyard area because, as you will see in the next slide, so we have 30,000 wine growers on 15,000 hectares. So if you do the math, it's like each wine grower has half of the hectare of vineyards, which is quite unique in terms of the production. I think like in Australia, they have like 5,000 wine producers, but in Slovenia, we have 30,000 grape growers, which is quite unique. The problem with this is that the area of vineyards is, I mean, the average vineyards is so small, and also the wine growers are getting older and older. I think like the average age is like 65 years old, which means that this will not, I mean, probably the level of, I mean, the size of Slovenian vineyard area will probably still decrease slowly in the future until one extent. Yes, so we have 51 recommended. I mean, now I think it's already 53 grape varieties which are allowed. It's mostly white, obviously, and 15 red varieties. And you can see the which one are the most planted. So you see like Laški Riesling, this is Welsh Riesling. So this is not the classic Riesling. It's Welsh Riesling or Riesling Italico, as they say it as well. Again, we have this one grape variety which is the most planted in Slovenia, mostly in the eastern part, to some extent also in the west. But again, this is the same story as you can see. With 5%, you have Žametoka Črnina, which is the same grape variety as the oldest wine. Laški Riesling is almost everywhere used in blends. So, you know, actually usually used in blends. The same as Žametoka Črnina, which is also usually used in blends. But yet again, you can do like in Slovenia, they produce some outstanding predicat, you know, like the wine with like with high sugar content, a bit, well, usually with botrytis. So you have quite amazing examples of that. But as I said, usually Laški Riesling is used in blends. What you can see from this circle of grape varieties, it is that in Slovenia we have also we have international grape varieties such as Chardonnay, Sauvignon, Merlot, Riesling, Chardonnay, or we have like, let's say, the most like the regional grape varieties. So Refošk, Blaufränkisch, Istrska Malvazija, so Rebula as well. So these are grape varieties which are either more or less present in the like surrounding countries. So Refošk, you can also get it in Italy or in Croatia. You know, Blaufränkisch, but yeah, I'll say a bit more afterwards. So anyways, so we have international grape varieties and we have regional and also indigenous grape varieties which are only grown in Slovenia and nowhere else in the world. So yeah, so 30,000 wine growers. We have three wine regions. So Primorska, Podravje, and Posavje. So Podravje and Posavje are named after the rivers. So we have River Sava, which goes all the way to Belgrade and into the Black Sea. And you have Drava, which is joins. So which is you have two rivers which are named after the regions which are named after the rivers, and you have Primorska, which means literally at the sea. So this is the coastal part of Slovenia. In terms of size, you can see Primorska produces 43%, Podravje 36%, and Posavje 21%. So Primorska is the biggest, and then Podravje, and then Posavje. All in all, we produce 80 to 90 milliliters. The funny part is that we don't have official number for the wine production. Why is that? The thing is that producers who have less than 0.800, so which are like more than 1/10 of the hectare, they don't have to register the wine, and they only have this for domestic consumption. So it's for the family and for the friends, honestly, which means that, as I said before, I mean, wine in Slovenia, it's really part of the everyday life. It's part of the culture. I don't know if you know it, but even the Slovenian anthem, which was written by the poet France Prešeren, it's actually a toast. So even our anthem, it has connection to wine. So out of all these 30,000 producers, we have 2,300 wineries. So actually they produce, I mean, they bottle the wine, because the rest is more or less for the, as I said before, for the family consumption. So we have 10, 11 wine cellars, which are bigger than 500,000 liters. And the biggest one among them is Goriška Brda, which is Klet Brda, and they produce between 6 and 8 million of liters of wine per year. 70% white, 30% red, which is also kind of historically as it was. All right, finally, now we go to the chart again, to the map. As you can see, so we have in the east, so the red part, it's Štajerska Slovenia, and then on the top of it, it's Prekmurje, which is at the border to Hungary. And then we have the green region, which is Posavje, and this is divided like, so we have Dolenjska, Bizeljsko-Sremič, and we have Bela Krajina, which is at the border to Croatia. And then in the western part, we have 4 wine subregions, Goriška Brda or Brda. And as we were talking before, this is the region bordering Italy, and Kolio, it's on the other side of the border. And many Slovene wine producers actually have also vineyards on the Italian side, and vice versa, because obviously it's not that easy to divide. We have the Pava Valley, we have the Karst region, and then also the Slovenska Istra, which means that, yeah, at the coast, the coastal part of the Primorska wine region. All right, and now slowly we should go to the regions to see a bit more about what they have to offer. So as I was saying before, we have the difference in climate is that the eastern part, and Podravje obviously is in the eastern part of Slovenia, they have continental climate, which means that you have pretty like warm summers and also cool winters. One of the most important things is they quite different. I mean, the difference in terms of night and day temperature, which means that usually you get a bit more of aromatic wines because of that. You have the freshness, the acidity there usually. And as I said before, you have some grape varieties which are grown here, and they're not growing in the western part because it's too warm. One of those is obviously Riesling, which is Riesling requires a bit more cooler climate compared to the, let's say, Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, and also Zeleni, like Zeleni Silvanec, so Silvaner, it's also like, which is in the west-east, but it's not in the west. Furmint, or as we call it, Chipon, it's in the east, but it's not in the west. So you have a couple of different grape varieties which are there. So as you can see, 250 to 400 meters of the altitude above the sea level, and not much, I mean, not as much rainfall as the west. So it's around 1,000 milliliters per year, because in the west, as we will see later, they have a lot of rainfall, which is actually unprecedented for the classic wine regions. Because, you know, like in Bordeaux, they have around 900 milliliters per year. In Burgundy, 700 to 750, or even Zas, they have like 550 to 600. So you can see here, all Slovenian wine regions, they have actually more rainfall than the majority of classic wine regions, which means that we don't, I mean, there's more or less no, we don't have to water any of our vineyards usually. So we have enough rainfall to actually be quite aligned with whatever nature gives us. One more thing, again, yeah, Slovenia, like 90% of the vineyards are planted on the slope. Okay, so there's almost no vineyards on the flat land, only 10%. Why? Because as we know, for the wine production, usually you need a good drainage of the water to retain so long in the soil. So yeah, the majority of vineyards are planted on the slopes, which means that it's much more difficult to use machinery. So a vast majority of Slovenian grapes are handpicked, which is another thing which is not so common anymore everywhere. Which also means that it's quite expensive to handle all these vineyards on the slopes. And you can imagine, I mean, we cannot compare to, let's say, Macedonia or South Africa. I mean, we cannot produce wine for 35 cents per liter. It's just impossible in terms of the costs which we have to use. I mean, in terms of the time and work which we have to use for the winemaking there. Okay, yeah, Podravje, maybe another thing. It's so in terms of the stylus of wine, yeah, it's compared to the West, it's a bit fresher. We have like really this kind of crisp whites, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, even Muscat is there present, Furmint. So we have a bit more crispier, medium plus to high acidity wines. Majority of those, it's not used in oak, so they want to retain this freshness, the primary aromas, and they're super good. As you can see on the right side, we have also some of the famous, really good producers, so which are there. And from the red grape varieties, okay, I have something about that as well. So as I said, for the white, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, we have Chardonnay, Furmint. And from the reds, it's mostly the continental reds. So we have Blaufränkisch, or as we call it, Modra Frankinga, and we have Pinot Noir. There's a bit of Zweigelt as well in Stärska in Prekmurje, but these are the most important two red varieties. So nowadays people have started to plant also Merlot, because it's still with the global warming, it's maybe even possible to do that. So you see like even all this is slowly changing as well. Yeah, so 600, we said it already, so I think we can slowly move on. And as you can see, these are a couple of pictures of Slovenska Stärska. So the wine region, it's super nice, and this is yeah. As you can see here again, you see the terraces. You see, and that's again, this is like labor-consuming work. It's super difficult to use machinery here, and also traditionally in Slovenia we have around 4,000 to 5,000 Bordeaux and Burgundy, which they have like around 10,000 plants per hectare. This is less, but when you have terraces, you cannot have more than 3,000 plants. It's impossible. So again, this again adds to the cost of the wine. And as you can see, so this is the eastern part of Slovenia. So they have, well, this is a continental climate, and obviously when winter arrives, it's usually lots of snow. Definitely more than in the west, because in the western part it's rarely, you cannot find this kind of picture in the western part of Slovenia. Again, this is so you should definitely come to Slovenia, visit, because you see we have lots of yeah, it looks pretty good. Yes, also when we had I mentioned the oldest vine, which is in Maribor, but this is the oldest. It's one of the oldest wine cellars. This is from Ptuj town, which was Petovia back in the Roman times, and so they are the proud owners of the oldest wine in Slovenia from 1917. So this wine cellar was actually the only wine cellar who survived the Second World War in terms of the wine. So they had a secret cellar, and they like kind of built it so they could not find the wine, and they were able to preserve even the vintages before the Second World War. So they are the proud owners of the oldest bottle from 1917. But it's not super cheap. I think it's quite expensive if you want to buy it. So okay, yeah, and as I said, we want to focus on a little bit as well to the specific regional grape varieties. This is Šipon. Furmint is international grape variety. As you know, the most famous grape variety of Tokaj region in Hungary, usually used for the sweet wine, but obviously now we are mostly working on the dry Šipon. The legend goes Sebon. So why it's there Sebon? Because the legend goes when French crusaders were passing through Slovenia for the Crusades, they tried the wine and said, "Oh, c'est bon, c'est bon. It's a good wine." And our ancestors understood it as Šipon, so that's why we call it Šipon. So this is the legend, and well, it's still there. So no one disproved it, I guess. So Šipon is mostly planted in Podravje region. So this is the one I was talking about before. So we have roughly 500 hectares, 550. This grape variety produces, so you have wine with high acidity, quite gentle aroma, usually with like apples and pears, medium alcohol. Usually it's produced in like nowadays, like a dry wine, but you can also have it like off dry. And also because it's quite prone to botrytis, you have some super amazing, obviously, you know, as they have it in Tokaj region. So you can have also some amazing sweet wines made from Chipon, because it's really good in terms of it has high acidity, which balance the sweetness of the sugar, the high sugar levels. So you can actually have like super outstanding sweet wine produced from this grape variety. Okay. So Prekmurje, as we've seen before, it's actually the smallest. It's the smallest. I mean, it's the little sister of Štajerska. So this is at the border to Hungary. This is beginning of the flatland for Slovenia, but as you can see here, even here, the vineyards are planted on the slopes. You cannot find it like on the flatland. All right, and now we move to Posavje region. So this is the region named after River Sava, which goes, as you can see, I mean, yeah, the river is there. So this is the smallest region with 2,600, but it has the same as Štajerska, a lot of wine growers and producers. So this is the region where each producer has like less than half of a hectare of vineyards to produce the wine for themselves, for the family, for the friends. And it's also the coolest wine region in Slovenia. So you see there's a bit of more like rainfall than in Podravje, so with 1,070 to 1,200 milliliters per year, and definitely a bit more cool climate character. So so you have, apart from Bela Krajina, which you can see here, you know, see Chernomel is the city, and then you have 4 wine producers on the right side. This is Bela Krajina, which has already a bit like sub-Pannonian climate, because there's the mountain range of Gorjanci, and when you switch, it has a bit more, it's a bit warmer there than in the rest of Dolenjsko or Bizeljsko. So here we have, in terms of grape varieties, as we said before, Black Frankish, Žametovka, and in terms of white, Welsh Riesling, which is, yeah, we call it Laški Riesling. Also Rumeni Plavec, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Kraljevina. So Dolenjska is the biggest among the region with 1,460 hectares. And then you have half of that size is Bizeljsko Stremič and Bela Krajina, which is the smallest one, the smallest wine sub-region in Slovenia with 340 hectares. So the wine which is here the most produced, it's called Cviček, but I'll say a couple of more words about that, which is a blend of, it's a blend of white grapes and red grapes, which is not usually the case in the world, but here actually it is, and produces this wine with high acidity, this kind of nice like raspberry, cranberry aromas, low alcohol. By the law, it's not allowed to have more than 10%. Yeah, I'll say a bit more about it later when we talk about the regional wines. And this is Dolenjska again. You can see it planted on the hills. Not so many terraces here. Mostly you have the vertical. Cviček, yeah, it's a wine which is mostly consumed in Slovenia, so it's not being exported to other countries. And it's quite unique. When Caroline Gilby was in Slovenia, she said like, yeah, maybe guys, you should drink the Cviček on your own, but you should definitely export Modra Frankinja or like the fresh whites from Dolenjska. So it was discovered in 2016 by German scientists that this grape variety, it's actually, the origins are from Slovenia, from Štajerska officially, but so we call it Modra Frankinja. In German, the word is called Black Frankish, or if you go to Hungary, it's Kek Frankos. It's getting, I mean, it's just improving dramatically in the last years. I think it's becoming the flagship variety of Posavje region because it has to offer more. So it's definitely, it's a good, I mean, it's good times for Modern Frank in Slovenia. They're organizing all these festivals, also with scientists and professors and tastings, you know, so they're trying to build this grape variety to be more important as it is now. As you know, Black Frankish, for me personally, the best examples that are coming from Burgenland, so from Austria. But ours are a bit more juicy, not so, you know, let's say tight. They're a bit more enjoyable, easier to drink. Burgenland usually you have, but also this kind of nice peppery touch to it. And of course, you have high acidity with Blind Frankish by definition. And as I said, it was used to be used in blends, but nowadays it's getting reputation with as a single grape variety. All right, and now we go to Primorska wine region, which is probably the most, I mean, nowadays is the most, I would say, famous. Even if you see the numbers of producers, it's much higher than in the other regions. So this is we have 4 sub-regions. We have the Vipavska Dolina, Slovenska Istra, Goriška Brda, and Kras. So you can see here on in the north, I mean, the northwestern part of this map, it's the Goriška Brda. Then we go slowly down. We have Vipava Valley, we have the Karst region, and then we have the Istra as well. It's interesting to mention that. So here, look at the rainfall. It's just crazy. Like it goes up to 1,500 or 1,600 milliliters per year, which is for a wine region like something completely crazy. Because the thing is that there's only, as I said before, you have the Alps on the north and you have the seaside, and it's only 150 kilometers between 3,000 meters above the sea level and then to the sea level, which means that there's a lot of wind blowing there. We call it buria, the famous wind, which is blowing from the continent to the sea, and obviously lots of rainfall as well. But it's not a huge problem because this rainfall usually falls in the times when it's not crucial for the wine growing, for the grape growing, and also it's usually comes in bigger chunks of, falls down like in a big kind of I don't know, rainfalls, and but it also kind of goes away soon in terms of it's not like slow rain for the whole year. That's what I'm trying to say. So these are the four sub-regions. All in all, like 6,400 hectares, and here, they have much more red wine than in the eastern part. So here we can also do Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Refosco. So definitely the best international red is Merlot for Slovenia, because it's for Cabernet Sauvignon it's a bit too cold to ripen properly. So not each vintage can be an amazing Cabernet Sauvignon, because Cabernet ripens like 2 weeks later than Merlot. So you should consider, let's say, Goriška Brda as the right bank of Bordeaux in terms of grape varieties. Cabernet Franc is doing amazingly lately. So people are planting more Cabernet Franc because it has like super good potential, especially in Goriška Brda and Vipava as well. And then if you move to Slovenska Istra, it's also the Refosco, but a bit different. But yeah, I'll come back to that. As you can see here, in terms of white grape varieties, of course, there's you have international Sauvignon, you have Chardonnay, but then we have these, let's say, more regional grape varieties, the Sanvionas, or it used to be called Tokaj, but not anymore. Or we have like Vitovska Gargania, which is indigenous grape variety for the Karst region. So it's only growing in Slovenian Karst and Italian Karst as well. Malvasia Istarska, which is in Croatia as well, in Slovenia to some extent, in Italy. So these are the most, more like interesting grape varieties. Goriška Brda, probably nowadays the most famous part of Slovenian winemaking scene. You might have heard of Movia or Marijan Simčič or Edi Simčič or Ščurek or Kabaj. So these are guys who are also internationally quite famous. But again, they are small, so like they have like, 20, 30 hectares. So it's not easy to buy the wine outside Slovenia because it's a small production. And so that's why. And also we tend to drink a lot of our wine in Slovenia. So we export only 10%, 90% of the wine produced in Slovenia, we drink it domestically. So we are quite a wine country. And in terms of the average consumption per capita, which is around 40 liters per year, we are pretty high up in that as well. So as you can see terraces, this is this is a lovely scene, but it's also high. I mean, it's difficult to maintain. It's quite labor intensive, and also costs are pretty high for these kind of vineyards. And Rebula, this is definitely the flagship grape variety of Goriška Brda. It's also growing in the Vipava Valley, and as we said before, in Collio, on the Italian side. First mentioned already in 14th century, so it has a long tradition. But this grape variety, actually, it's if you just let it be, then it will grow like crazy, and it will produce high acidic wine with low alcohol and no concentration. So you have to be precise, especially in the vineyard, to produce lower yields in order to get all the potential of this grape variety, which is there. So usually medium to high acidity and medium body. That's a better spelling mistake. But on top of that, it also comes in different shapes and sizes. So you can have the classic stainless steel, easy to enjoy white wine. Then you have some amazing oak age production. But lately, as you probably, those who have tried Slovenian wine, it's more easy to find outside Slovenia wine, which is so-called orange wine, which means that you have the white grape varieties with longer skin contact. So it's a white grape variety produced as a red. Also lots of biodynamic and organic producers. So this Rebula has, it's quite extraordinary in terms of how many styles of Rebula exist, even though it's only 600 hectares in Slovenia. But it's quite an amazing grape variety. And also in Brda, they're really trying hard to promote this grape variety. So each year they organize festival. It's called Brda, Home of Rebula, with international guests, and so they're really trying to push this forward, and also cooperating within the region how to promote that. So it's one of the, I would say, Slovenian success stories, but still there's more to achieve. So Vipavska Dolina, this is the second one in terms of, the biggest in terms of the size in Primorska region. So Romans were there, and so the wine was is here for the last, it's more for more than 2,000 years. There was a bit of struggle in this region in, let's say, 90s. It was a bit kind of slowly didn't show out the potential, but in the last 10-15 years you have so many good producers, even outstanding producers. This wine, it's also, according to the Lonely Planet, this was one of the top 10 destinations to visit. It's it's really nice, and it has to offer a lot. Especially, they're super famous. They're pretty proud of these two grape varieties. One is called Zelen. Zelen means green in English, and the other one is Pinela. So these are two grape varieties which are only growing in the Vipava Valley and nowhere else in the world. So quite unique. You all probably know the ABC societies, anything but Chardonnay or Cabernet Sauvignon. So as well, a lot about wine, so you might be sometimes a bit fed up with the same grape varieties, which you can find from New Zealand to Chile. And well, these are quite unique. Zelen and Pinela are indigenous to the Vipava Valley, and it's, in that sense, they're a bit interesting to try for sure. For me, especially Zelen, because it has kind of specific aroma profile with this kind of dry herbs and this usually apricots as well. It's quite unique. Usually, again, lower alcohol, low acidity compared to Pinela, which has higher acidity. It's also more it's full-bodied wine, medium plus alcohol. So, but it doesn't have this specific character as Zelen does. So if you have maybe a chance to try Zelen in the future, try to do that. And of course, Slovenian Istra. This is the coastal part. As you can see, this is the sea, and then you have the the vineyards. Definitely another region in which is growing rapidly, especially also on the Croatian side. They are doing really good there as well. But the thing which combines us both is the Istarska Malvazija, which is, as you know, we have more than 50 different Malvazijas in the world, you know. But this one is coming from Istra, so this is the specific grape variety. And actually in Slovenia, it's you've seen, like, we have 600 hectares of Rebula, but we have 900 hectares of Malvazija. So Malvazija is mostly growing in Istra, but also in Karst, Vipava, and in Goriška Brda to some extent. So and also the vineyard area of Malvazija is actually growing. So there's a good market for this grape variety. And as we call it, this is Queen of Istra. The king is Refošk, but you'll see this on the next slide. It has this comes in different styles, but the majority obviously is drank as a fresh one, because it's an aromatic grape variety. Usually you can it's like has this kind of nice flower and also a bit of tropical fruit there, aromas. It's not super acidic, so medium acidity, and you have to be really careful with this grape variety. So if you put it like if you pick it too late. I tried in one of the cellars Malvazija with 17% alcohol, it's quite amazing to have a wine with 17% alcohol. So you have to be precise in terms of winemaking, but it shows like it's a really good grape variety, and as I said, we really like it. And also, majority is stainless steel kind of production, but then you have oak aged, you have like the longer skin contact as well. This is when you go to Istra. When you go to the seaside, if you go to a restaurant, order a good fish, and then with the bottle of this wine, you have you cannot nothing can go wrong, I guess. And this is the king of Istra. It's Refošk. The most planted red grape variety in Slovenia with 1,300 hectares. As you can see, it's mostly in Istra, but it's like 400, a bit more. It's planted also in the Karst region. The difference is, as we will see, so in the Karst, anyway, so I'll talk about this later. So Refošk it's a deep purple color. It's like it's like thick. It's so deep and concentrated in terms of the color that once you see it, you will not forget it. Back in the days, they were like quite harsh wines with high acidity, robust, kind of like not the most elegant, let's say, wine produced. But again, in the last 20 years, things changed dramatically. So you have, you have wine made from Refošk who got like 96 Parker points, so it's again, like, it's a great variety with high potential, and those who know how to produce this wine correctly, it's just an amazing grape variety. But so it's growing in Istra, also in Croatia, and you can find it in Italy as well. So it's a regional grape variety. And again, now we move to the Karst. So this is Terra Rossa, the famous soil of the Karst region. So Karst, it's as a geographical entity, it's famous for all the caves and all these kind of underground rivers, and so it's because of the limestone, obviously. And here in the Karst region, what happened that this limestone got oxidized, so you have iron there. That's why it has this classic famous red color, Terra Rossa, or as we call it, Jerina. And in the Karst region, you have the as we said before, so 75% of the Karst region is planted with Refošk grape variety. But when it's planted in Karst, it's called Teran. So you see, this is the second one here. This is Teran, which is obviously here on the left side. It has the same, this kind of thick, deep, like purple color. And again, this is, as you remember, I was talking about Cviček before. So Cviček is on the right side. So this is like kind of light, it's not rosé by definition, because it's a blend of red and white grapes. But this is, again, both of these, these are the PTP wines. So it's like, actually it's double, Anyway, so this is the posebno tradicionalno poreklo, which means that this is has a specific regional, I mean, it's by the law, you have to produce it in a specific kind of way. And these are four, we have six, these Patapa wines. And it's these are mostly wines drank in the region, you know. Metliška Črnina comes from Metlika, which is in Bela Krajina. And then Teran is from the Karst region. Cviček, it's only produced in Dolenjska. So we have this kind of regional wines, which are again quite unique, but not really exported because it's maybe it's not the most. I mean, it's usually a bit specific wine to be. This is not like international kind of style, not at all. Yeah, a couple of pictures in terms of soil, and I mean, so yeah, this is the classical polka. I mean, the majority of Slovenia, it's mostly based on limestone, but of course we have all different soils as well, like clay, sandstone, flysch, lapor, different styles of flysch as well. So this is you see the difference here. So this is a polka, which is the famous soil of Goriška Brda. Here again a polka. And this is flysch, which is kind of, as you can see by the layers. Actually, this is one of the sellers of really good producer. His name is Burja. I mean, so he actually has this wall in the cellar in order to show in what kind of conditions his plants, I mean, vines are growing. You know, so this is from Vipava Valley. All right. So wine festivals, yeah. As I said before, Slovenia, I mean, wine is really, it plays a huge part of Slovenian culture and gastronomic scene. So, so we have around, so you can see this is actually the capital of Slovenia, Ljubljana. You know, Saint Martin, it's the famous holiday when the must transforms to wine, and we celebrate this all around Slovenia, even in the capital. So as you can see, lots of people. So we have this kind of wine road. So people go around with glasses and try different wines and different producers. So on the left here, you can see we have the Orange Wine Festival, which is held in Izola. Then we have the Ljubljana Festival of Wine, and we have all these specific regional festivals. I mean, there's so much to actually, you can just more or less each week you can go to a festival somewhere, hopefully after the pandemic. So which, you know, the wine regions are really kind of, they like to promote the wine culture, the wine producers, and it's also the gastronomic scene. So it's a huge part of Slovenia. And as we said before, I mean, we talked to Tal, maybe just a couple of words because you're also interested in the food as well, in restaurants. So I don't know if you recognize her, but this is the famous Slovenian chef Ana Roš. She's the chef in Hiša Franko, which is according to San Pellegrino top 50 best restaurants in the world. It's now already I think among top 20 if not mistaken. So in Slovenia in the last 20 years there was a huge kind of, let's say, gastronomic revolution. 20 years ago it was difficult to find like a, let's say, pretty decent restaurant, but nowadays you have you know, so many like great restaurants. Not in Ljubljana only, but spread all around Slovenia. Lots of young chefs who are like eager to you know, to be better, to do something amazing. And Ana Roš, well, she was the best female chef in 2016. If you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check the Chef's Table on Netflix, where, well, she's there and Hiša Franko is there as well. I spent one season there as a sommelier, so I also know like a bit of behind the scenes how things are working there. And it's I mean, it's an amazing restaurant. Actually, you can see the Alps from the restaurant, and it's just amazing view, amazing well, stuff, and also food. It's crazy as well. So so this is Ana, but apart from that, we have nowadays 6 restaurants in Slovenia with Michelin stars. So Hiša Franko received 2 stars like from the beginning, which is not usually the case. Restaurants usually have to kind of climb the ladder, but here it's yeah, here it's actually they received 2 stars in at once. So Hiša Franko is based in Kobarid. So this is, if you maybe know, the Soča River Valley. So this is over there at the border to Italy. But other stars are spread around Slovenia. So we have Hiša Denk, which is in Zgornja Kungota. This is the small village actually at the border to Austria. We have Gostilna pri Lojzetu, which is in Vipava Valley. So as you heard before, the wine region valley. Atelier, it's placed in Ljubljana, in the capital. Then we have Dam, which is placed in Nova Gorica, again, at the border to Austria. And Gostišće Grič is the last one which received the star. This is in Šentjošt, which is like 30 minutes away from Ljubljana. So yeah, there's a, I mean, you know, as you know, when you have good food, you also need good wine, and this all kind of goes hand in hand. And I think in Slovenia, the improvement of cuisine and also the wine in the last 20 years was super nice. But we still have to, yeah, I think we have to achieve more in terms, especially in terms of international recognition. So that's why I think each of these kind of lectures or trying to spread the word around about Slovenian wine, I think it's helpful and good. Unfortunately, I couldn't send you the wine samples because it would be even better if you would be able to try the wine, not just to, one thing is to actually talk about the wine, and the other thing is to actually try the wine as well. But yeah, since we're slowly kind of there, I would like to thank you for your attention, of course. And definitely, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to bring it on, and we can maybe continue the discussion afterwards.
Wow, thank you so much, Ožbej. So much information in less than 1 hour. Great. Well, we'll open. If anyone has any question, this is the time to unmute yourself so we can hear you. And if you want to have any response or say something about the presentation, or if you have any questions, that's the time to do it. But you need to unmute yourself, please, first, because...
Yes, I have to admit I've been in Slovenia, and I've done a week of wine touring in Slovenia from Koper, it's southwest, to Maribor at the north. And I've been in a few wineries, and it was very impressive. First time I met the Refosh, and I believe they said it was a copper, and I think they said it was brought from Italy. Actually, it was unique. I've never tasted something like that. It's like a Petit Syrah on steroids, something so heavy and thick. I think I still have a bottle or two in my cellar. But the whites are the real gem of Slovenian wines.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That if you want to compare Slovenia internationally in terms of quality, yeah, for sure. I mean, whites are upper on the scale than the reds. I mean, in terms of this is what our, let's say, terroir gives us, and of course we can do, like, you know, it's hard to compare Merlot, you know, to Merlot is produced everywhere, you know. But when you have Rebula, Malvasia, even like Chardonnays and Sauvignons, they're pretty amazing. Yeah, I agree that the best ones are actually, I mean, whites are, I would say, better. Yeah, I mean, better.
I'm more impressive. I like them a lot.
Excellent. Anyone else?
There is one more question, please. There is any irrigation rules, or you are not allowed to irrigate the plants, the vineyards?
I mean, as I said, usually the majority, they don't have to use it, but I don't think it's forbidden per se. I mean, I have to check in terms of the, maybe for specific quality range of wine, yes, but I don't think so, honestly. I mean, I'm not completely sure. Yeah, because we have enough, as I said before, we have enough of rainfall more or less everywhere. it's true, like as in Koper, they have lately also some problems with drought in the summertime, because it's due to the climate change. It's getting warmer and warmer. So they're actually thinking to, I mean, I think they will have to change the attitude, because if you lose 10-15% of the yield per year due to drought, it's I mean, at the end of the day, it's a huge part of production. But I don't think it's forbidden for the majority of the styles. Yeah, but I'm not completely sure, honestly.
Thank you, Ožbej. Just a question for me. Can you just say quickly the main countries of export of your beautiful wines?
Yeah, so we do export to, well, various countries. Officially, still the most important export is actually to I mean, you have UK and US market. It's quite big, but for a couple of producers. Then, of course, we have the regional Central Europe. So, you know, Germany, Czech Republic, Croatia. So these are also Italy. These are the most, let's say, the most important countries. Also, Benelux lately, it's rising. So like the Holland and Luxembourg and Belgium. So these are, I mean, China, it's not a big factor yet, but yeah, we'll see in the future. So mostly Europe, of course, and then a bit of United States and UK.
Thank you. Fine. Anyone else?
I maybe just didn't understand very well, because in the beginning, what concerns your grapes, you have a lot of autochthonic grapes, and also the European and the French grapes. In the beginning, you spoke a lot of blending grape, when you mentioned some, and then you put some special grapes, maybe or favorites, I don't know, in the picture. What do they do most? Do you have a lot of monocépage wines? Or is especially the blending wine the most important one in production?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you remember the P wines, so these are, I mean, the majority of wine is produced as single grape variety, but for the lower quality, let's say for the everyday
entry level.
Yeah, and entry level. Sorry, thank you for that. For the entry level, it's a lot of blending there. Yeah. So when I said that, you know, we have Laški Riesling, Velši Riesling, and Žameta Černina, grape varieties which are planted a lot, but it's more or less impossible to find them as a single grape varieties. I mean, international grape varieties, they're mostly present as single grape varieties, but you can also use them in blends, you know, because the tradition in Slovenia was that, you know, as in Austria, you have like the single
in Austria.
Like when you have like different grapes, different grape varieties planted in the same vineyard.
Yes.
Then you just, you know, more or less.
Yes.
You pick everything at the same time because it's the most convenient, and you know, something is overripe, something is underripe, but the average is not so bad. So this was the let's say traditional thing. But so nowadays the most, I mean, majority is still it's not blends. The majority is actually single grape varieties.
Single grape monocépage, which is fine. So that's the way how you learn to respect a certain grape.
Exactly.
It all has its favors and disfavors. Okay, thank you. That was not a glass of wine, Tal.
I know. Trust me.
Are you not allowed to? Are you not allowed to drink during the
in a minute? Dinner is waiting with plenty of wine.
Yeah.
But don't forget, we started here much before you join us. So I'm still last schluck of coffee. So just if you don't have any more questions before I give Muhammad, to end this webinar, I just want to thank you again for joining us. I want to thank Ožbej for this amazing presentation. We worked for the last few months about it and the correspondence, and I feel not only I gain knowledge, I gain a friend, and I'm looking forward to come and visit you and to travel in your wine country. I do want also to end this with a small prayer for quick peace resolution between Ukraine and Russia, and that everything will be quiet as soon as possible, and we can drink wines from these two countries as soon as possible together. Mohammed, please.
Well, I mean, you said it all, Tal, so there's nothing else to say other than thank everybody online with us today, and thank you for joining us. And also, I wanted to close by saying thank you to Ožbej, and hopefully we will see you, as Tal said, and either we come and visit you or we meet somewhere in the world, So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, and please, again, don't forget to join us on Instagram and Facebook and so on. Our name is OMGDGLOBAL, where you can see various things about our events. Also, you can join the events live, not live, actually streamed also on the YouTube, where you can see this session today is our 10th event since we started last year in March. So you can see all of them if you wanted to go through it and see what has been presented, just to get an idea and so on, The aim was to introduce something unique, something that people didn't know about it. Some of the events are more kind of sexy than the others, but again, the idea was to introduce as many wine regions, wine countries around the world. So once again, thank you so much, and have a nice evening, everybody.
And join us next month with Swiss wine.
Thank you, everyone.
We have next month Swiss wine. So last Sunday of the month, join us with Swiss wine.
Great.
I forgot to say it.
With the sommelier contest.
Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.